Okay, hello, my art friends. It's Kelly Folsom here. Today we have a rapid fire, hopefully more rapid fire critique feedback session. If you are interested in submitting your work for free for a chance to get a free critique on your paintings, where you can do so. We've got the link in the description there for you where you can submit that anonymously and get a chance to get featured and get also some feedback. So the general idea here is, what is wrong with my painting, or what's off with my painting? Okay, so the first thing I wanted to pull up, I think all of these today are going to be mostly roses. This one is with tulips. And, this one here, honestly, I don't even know that there's anything missing from this painting or off with this painting whatsoever. So yeah, I think this painting really, really works well. The style is cohesive. Everything is consistent throughout. I think the arrangement of the objects is quite beautiful. All of the, size and placement looks nice. The amount of space seems considered very, very well. Yeah, so I mean, this one, I don't really have any critique or ideas for feedback whatsoever. So just really great job. Some people maybe might think that I would say, oh, you should be more painterly or use more paint or, whatever. That's my personal aesthetic, right? Like that's my personal taste whenever it comes to painting. The main thing that we all want to keep in mind is just first of all, identifying what our artistic voice is, what our personal taste is, and what techniques we love and respond to the most, and just staying consistent with that throughout the piece, which I think this painting really, really does. All of the colors all go really well together. There's a clear star of the show. The background color is complementary and harmonious with the foreground. So this artist is really checking all of the boxes, and it might surprise people not to hear me say, oh, you should use more paint or be more painterly. Well, you should, if that's what you want, if that's the look you want to start going for in your work. But if you're an artist out there that really loves more kind of hyper realism, you like things that are more detailed, or you like to create kind of more tight work like this is a good example of doing that really, really well. So I have no critique for you, just bravo. Continue the good work. It looks really, really beautiful. Okay, so next up we have this beautiful painting, which looks like maybe it was in progress at the time. And so, gosh, so many good things working here. I love this bit of cool versus warm, the glass having kind of the cool blue green, and that contrasting with the warm tones that are in these roses, which kind of look like those David Austin type roses. So yeah, overall, this piece is really strong as well. I think it just is needing some finishing touches and details, like some of the inside petals that would be catching a little bit of light on the inside of the roses. So I think just a little more work on this. Let's see, Brianna. I think just a little more work on this, and you can basically sign this. So not so much in terms of a critique as just, like put the finish where the finish counts the most, right? So we don't need every single little petal. However, we do need enough petals where that detail is going to, really count the most. So with roses, it's wonderful that we've got such nice clarity on the outer part of the rose and these outer petals, but we also need some more fine tuning on the inside, specifically where, you know, there's a few layers of petals on the inside that are showing up. So I think just a few more strokes, especially where the light is hitting the inside of the petals more, so that it doesn't feel too much like a concave bowl. So you do have the basic shape, the basic form and structure of the rose down with that bowl shape. It's just, you know, you're needing a little more, you know, detail on the interior to kind of fill out that bowl shape. And I'm just kind of making these strokes up based on the direction of the light source. Okay, the next big thing I just want to mention before I move on is really working on your, you know, edges. So specifically areas where your objects are getting too lost in the background, like right here on the vase. So make sure that you come back in, you know, before this painting is done, and see if you can just strengthen this contour. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to draw very well with my mouse, but see if you can kind of strengthen these contours. This edge is showing up better as a light against a dark, which is nice. You can probably strengthen that even more. And then on this side, you just want to decide what kind of contrast you want there. Let me see if I can get my mouse a little bit bigger. So on this side, it might be the reverse, just to bring in some more interest, since this is such a simple still life. One of the ways we can bring in more interest in a simple still life is by looking for areas of value contrast and color contrast. So I would really kind of push more color into this vase to get more bang for my buck out of the color contrast. And then maybe this side of the vase is dark against light of the background. So pulling maybe a little more of a lighter value in that background right against this edge, you know, where the contour is in front of the background to get more depth. So playing with those, what I call light reversals, can be a really powerful thing to do. The last thing I'm going to mention that you definitely don't want to miss out on is making sure that you have a clear enough cast shadow underneath your objects, or else it might feel like, you know, this object is what I call a UFO, an ungrounded floating object. So, you know, just bringing in some cast shadow is what I would say here. So it looks like the light source is coming from the right-hand side. So that means that our, you know, cast shadow shape would be on the tabletop, you know, coming off. So just make sure you don't miss putting that last finishing touch in. And of course it goes darkest just right underneath the objects, so that they don't feel like they're, you know, floating. Okay, so that's my feedback on this piece. That looks like, you know, that this artist was still working on this. So maybe you already did those things. And if you did, then that's just confirmation you did the right thing. All right, so next up we have this fun, it looks like a kind of a mini. I love minis. Those of you who know me know that I love doing miniatures, small works. I think it's one of the best and fastest ways to grow as an artist, because you go from start to finish much faster, and you learn faster by finishing more pieces of art and then editing and critiquing them afterwards. Okay, so I think really the strongest point of this painting is the color. Really, you know, using nice bold color. I love also, you know, the simple shapes, nice clear shapes, and also bold brushwork. I think that that's really great. My rapid fire feedback piece of advice on this is work on your size and placement. So you want to make sure that your subject matter is not covering the whole space edge to edge on the canvas. So it's hard to have depth and create depth of space if we don't really have any negative space. Do you know what I mean? So a good, if we divide the canvas up, we find the center of the canvas. And the thing I recommend is that you divide it into thirds, right, before you start painting. So divide it into thirds vertically and horizontally. This is a really good way to be able to visualize how much space that you're working with. A good rule of thumb is try not to go much larger than 50% of the height of your canvas. So if this distance here is 1/3, then I would say, that means maybe I can extend out a little bit. So if you could start, if you can start your composition with kind of an envelope shape of how much room you want the subject matter to take up, like this, and then start painting in your subject, then you're going to ensure that you end up with enough empty space around the flowers. So enough room to breathe, enough. So just to try to, I'm just trying to abstractly kind of illustrate what that might look like just in black and white. Basically, you just need more space around your objects, essentially. So you would have a much stronger piece if you had, kind of, if you just size your subject down a little bit more. That way you can get more interesting breakup of space, keep really the center, center of canvas is the prime real estate. It doesn't mean that you have to put everything right smack dab in the center, but something like this ratio, like if this was all background color here, just abstractly, trying to visualize this abstractly. If all of this was like more empty space, then you would automatically have more illusion of depth and space in your picture by bringing in more empty space. Okay. So we have to make sure, that we have both of those components there. Otherwise, the painting naturally tends to start to flatten. Everything gets flat and it starts to lose depth and dimension just because we sized everything too large. All right, so I hope that that's helpful. Next up, we have a couple of these paintings that looks like artists who painted along with a video lesson. I'm not sure if these are artists in my Art Life School community or not. I don't think they are. But if you're interested in painting along with this lesson, you can find it right here on the YouTube channel. And this one here, I really don't have a lot of feedback for because I think it's really, really well done. The only thing I'm going to mention on this piece is to recommend to kind of air out, give some glow to some of these cast shadows that are in between the roses so that the light on the roses don't feel so confined. So shadow stops and light moves. So I would say just allowing for kind of some glow, maybe not going quite so black in here in between, and this lesson in particular, these kind of lessons that I do in Art Life School every month, these are short 30-minute lessons. And so, obviously I can only take people so far in terms of the instruction. I try to get everybody as far as I can go on it. But, obviously I can't, do a highly refined, detailed thing. That's more of what the master classes are for and our monthly live workshops in the Art Life School are for. But I would just consider going a little bit lighter there. And then the other technique is called halation. And I specifically call this the baby Jesus halo because if you look at a lot of the old school paintings, the old master paintings, anytime they were doing a really light light against a really dark background, the effect is such that that light is so light and that background is so dark that you get like this kind of halation effect. And they often would use this for spiritual characters, like, and then of course the gold leaf pieces, they used to do like a gold leaf halo to get us to look at Jesus or Mary. But the idea was that, you know, this being is so glowy, or this flower, or this fruit is so glowy that light is reflecting or refracting off of it and kind of spilling out into the background. So that will also give you a stronger look of light and kind of this atmospheric, you know, kind of glow happening here. And of course, you have to kind of mix it in and make it not look so obvious. So that's my only feedback and tip there, is to let if the light is really strong like it is in this piece, let that light kind of spill out and start to impact some of the darks that are right next to it. Okay. And this is the same lesson by a different artist that got submitted. And so let's see, on this one, yeah, it's interesting. On this one, I'm going to say you kind of need more cast shadows underneath, you know. So again, if we don't, kind of like the vase in the first painting we looked at, if we don't anchor these things down enough with cast shadow, then they can just start to feel like they're floating, you know, off of the tabletop plane, or off of the ground if you're doing a landscape. So just kind of anchoring these down with cast shadow underneath. You can be a little more careful than I am there. And then speaking of shadows, you know, you want to make sure that you hold on to some value contrast in your shadow shapes. We don't want the same color that's in our lights to be in our shadows, and we don't want the same value. So in this case, I'm going to go a little more closer to kind of background color a bit here. You know, but you want more of a value contrast here. Same thing on this side of the form. Let's see, so hard to do this in Photoshop versus oil paint, in my opinion. So you just need more value contrast on these form shadows. Be careful, this whole edge here, this whole face of this rose is facing away from the light source. Okay, so this side of the rose has to stay darker if we're just looking at the basic construction of the rose. So for you, I think it's really pushing those shadows further, making sure you're getting enough contrast in your cast shadows, which is total absence of light, and enough contrast in your form shadows here. So that your lights have more power and your roses have more structure. So we can't really have structure without shadows, right? And we can't really have a sense of light without shadow, making that light, you know, shine even more. So that is the biggest piece of advice I have for this painting. And luckily, you know, you have the video to kind of see how I created the contrast between the light and shadow on those roses as well. All right, everybody, I hope that this has been helpful to everyone. Let me know in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button. I do have a goal to hit 100,000 subscribers this year. So make sure that you are subscribed. Help me out with that. And be sure to leave your biggest takeaway from this video in the comments below, in the description box below. If you want to submit, you know to look in the description to submit your painting for advice and feedback. And if you loved this and you're looking to learn more and get even more, greater value content and education, then I invite you to join the Art Life School. It's a monthly membership. You can click the link in the description to find out all about it. Okay, until next time, I'm wishing you all happy painting. Bye for now.